What's going on, ambitious vet? Thanks for diving right back inside the trenches with us this week as we seek to provide you the weekly golden grenades or wisdom bombs you need to break through to new levels of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success in your life post-military. If you're a veteran that's been out for a few years and has realized that immediate transitional tools like resume writing, interview prep, job fairs, that you've realized that they get you to a certain place in life, but they expire in you reaching your full potential in life, this is your new home and we welcome you. So what do we got today on today's show? Well, ambitious vet, you're going to, by the end of this show, be able to learn from someone that has spent the last 20 plus years training some of the top leaders in multiple countries on how you, as a veteran, a U.S. military veteran, has what it takes to do the emotional labor, to endure your fear and anxiety to get shit done in life, and how you can actually leverage that superpower and that instinct to really help lead our nation in the change that's currently happening. Stay tuned, and I promise you by the end of this, you're going to be feeling bigger, but more importantly, you're going to be feeling more empowered to get out there and execute like only an ambitious vet knows how.
And the fact that we really suck at change. We're really not very good at change, never have been. We need to be developing our emotional intelligence to feel the anxiety, the fear that change creates in us, and be able to develop the ability, the emotional intelligence to feel that fear and move through it rather than allowing ourselves to be controlled by it.
Today's show is going to be brought to you by Audible. Ambitious vet, are you looking to stay connected and informed to relevant topics for your life, or maybe you just want to start trying to find an outlet daily while you're walking your dog, or during your drive time, or just settling down for the day? Regardless of what you're doing on your breaks, make sure to fill your 6 inches with knowledge that's going to make you either better in an area of life or just allow you to kind of sit back and have a sense of humor with some of their Audible Plus catalogs of podcasts, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals. Yes, the Ambitious Vet podcast is in that catalog as well. But Ambitious Vet, take a 30-day free trial on us. And take advantage of 1 credit, 2 credits if you're a Prime member on some of their premium selections and titles like Emotional Agility. It's a book I'm currently enjoying by Susan David, PhD. It's all about getting unstuck, embrace change, and thrive in work and life. What you're going to learn inside the rest of this episode is how, as a society and a nation, we're accelerating change and our emotional intelligence needs to evolve with it. That book is what I definitely recommend to take advantage of with the 30-day trial. After that 30-day trial, Ambitious Vet, you're only going to be charged $6 a month for 3 months. After that 3 months ends, you're going to be charged $15 a month ongoingly thereafter. It's a small price to pay for who you're committed to being and investing in yourself to who you want to be in the next 5 to 10 years, in my opinion. If you are ready to go ahead and take advantage of that 30-day free trial, go check out www.audibletrial.com/AV podcast, and that link will be in the show notes below.
It's time to get into the trenches, dig into your purpose, and fire up your life fulfillment. The Ambitious Vet Podcast starts now.
What's going on, Ambitious Vet? We are right back inside the trenches this week with Phil Johnson. Phil Johnson is the founder of Master of Business Leadership Executive Coaching Program. There are MBL alumni in the US, Canada, UK, Europe, Japan, Africa, Australia, the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia. Over the past 21 years, Master of Business Leadership Coaching clients have been producing remarkable results, inspiring others to join the program. Ambitious Vet, I'm excited to introduce Phil Johnson. Phil, are you there?
Chris, I'm here. I'm thankful to be on your show.
Yeah, we're definitely honored to have you. As I was saying, just offline here, I think there's a lot that an ambitious vet that's listening to this right now can get from just understanding emotional intelligence, because it's kind of one of those buzzwords that everyone's using in the marketplace of like emotional intelligent leaders do this, right? But it's going to be really cool to have a patriot like yourself that's a non-veteran but have some military roots within your family kind of unpackage what emotional intelligence is and why it's important, and also just dive into some other key components I think the vet listening to this could pull some value from. But before we get into that, Phil, kind of dive it, have us kind of understand more of your background other than that introduction. And just more about what motivates you to bring your expertise within the veteran community.
I think there's a largely untapped wealth of leadership in the community, and that's not being taken advantage of within organizations. And I would suggest that the veterans not try to fit in with what already exists, but stand out. They've had the good fortune of having had to do a lot of emotional labor to learn how to deal with change and stressful situations. And they understand the value of teamwork and the importance of trust and a high level of engagement. These are abilities that, by and large, most organizations, most individuals don't have. So I would try and encourage folks that have gone through this type of emotional labor training to stand out and not try to fit in. We're living in a time of accelerating and rapid change, and the kind of emotional labor they've had to do and the emotional intelligence it's given them, the insights it's given them into themselves and other people is really valuable and important. And that value and importance will continue to grow with the accelerating rate of change we find ourselves in. So the central comment I would make is don't fit in, stand out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And us vets, me included, ambitious vet, we're rewarded in the military for being uniform with the person left and right side of us, right? So really figuring out individualistic, I guess that's a word, who knows, who you are from the inside out and knowing how to process emotions. But Phil, back to you, kind of fill us more into your background and why an ambitious vet should listen to you, not being a veteran.
Well, I've been on this, I'm 68, just turned 68, and I've been on this path for 54 years. I was born in, I'm dyslexic, failed grade 3, failed grade 5. And after my mother's death in December of 1967, I became a super overachiever. I went on and I played football, basketball in university, got BCom, most of an MBA, studied electrical engineering, spent 20 years in the semiconductor industry, generated over $1.5 billion in revenue. And I've been coaching executives and organizations around the world to achieve better results for the last 21 years by developing their emotional intelligence. So I have a program called Master of Business Leadership that is proven to create fantastic results. And it's really targeted at, it's almost like Navy SEAL training for your emotions. A big part of the Navy SEAL training process is to, and the military in general, is to be able to feel the fear that change and innovation creates in us and move through it. What actually happens is there's a part of our brain called the amygdala, which doesn't want us to change. And it's been around for about 500 million years. So whenever we take an action that moves us outside of our comfort zone, it secretes a hormone into our bloodstream called cortisol. it causes the executive center of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, to shut off, and we go into some type of fight, flight, or freeze mode. Some people lash out, some people run away, some people freeze like a deer in the headlights. If you, as an analogy, if you think of your amygdala as a very frightened 4-year-old child, your emotional intelligence acts like a big brother or a big sister to quiet the amygdala response down and better enable us to feel the fear and anxiety that innovation and change creates in us and move through it towards the vision of our desired results or objective, as opposed to allowing that fear to control us, to keep us stuck in our comfort zone. So a lot of the military training that vets have gone through have forced them to do a lot of what I call emotional labor. It's forced them to feel the fear that change and innovation creates in them and move through it towards some objective. And that journey, that process, has given them insights into themselves and into other people, their teammates, that produce far greater results. So it's interesting. More and more companies are hiring, promoting, and developing emotional intelligence because of the accelerating rate of change. It's estimated that in this century, we could experience the equivalent of roughly 20,000 years worth of change, or 200 centuries worth of change. So change is increasing at an exponential rate. Mm-hmm. And we've got that 500 million year old brain that doesn't like change. So more and more companies like Apple, Google, Southwest Airlines, JetBlue, Infosys, Whole Foods, FedEx, and Costco, a lot of the hiring process is centered around looking for people with above average levels of emotional intelligence. And in a sense, you can't go through the emotional training that vets go through and the challenges and the fear they face and not develop an above average level of emotional intelligence. And that their emotional intelligence is an asset that's increasing in value every day with the accelerating rate of change. So a lot of the drama, chaos, and conflict that we see today in the world and in organizations and in individuals comes from a lack of emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
So I think that vets have a hell of a lot more to offer than they might think they do. So yeah, again, I go back to what I was saying. They shouldn't be trying to fit in. They should be trying to stand out. They should be trying to lead by example.
Yeah. And I think to your point, I think we're naturally wired as veterans in all branches of service to adapt to change and adapt to it quickly. I mean, you think about it, Ambitious Vet, every 2 years we were moving to new duty stations. I mean, sometimes, you're in the Army or another branch, like you may do a 3 or 4 year tour in a different duty station, but you're constantly changing. You're being around new people, new ethnicities, stuff like that. And, for civilian hiring initiatives, post-military, for them to tell you that you lack the interpersonal skills, completely bullshit, in my opinion. And it's to Phil's point here, it's about doing the emotional labor, right? Can you kind of unpackage what emotional labor is, Phil?
Sure. There's two primary sources of resistance we have to change. One is biological, the other one is sociological. And in the biological side, there's the cortisol that comes from the amygdala, which I mentioned. There's also our existing habits. See, we're only conscious about 3 to 5% of the time. The rest of the time, we're relying on our existing habits to create our behaviors and our results. So if we want to get better results, we've got to develop better habits, which means we've got to move out of our comfort zone. And when we do that, it creates the neural network pathways in our brain that becomes our habit. And we can do that at any age. We can develop new habits at any age. It's called brain plasticity or neurogenesis. But the thing is, once we develop a habit, it's there forever. So all of our old habits are going to be battling our new habits for dominance. Even though the new habits may be better than the old habits, they're weaker. because we haven't been practicing them as long. So there's a habit resistance we have to change, and there's the cortisol resistance we have to change biologically. On the sociological side, the resistance there is the people around us don't want us to change. Because if we change and we start to get better results, maybe they're going to have to change. That scares the hell out of them.
Yeah.
And the best way to ensure they don't have to change is to make sure we fail. So we can say, told you so, and keep your head down, your mouth shut, and get back in the herd. So you can't lead from inside the herd. In order to lead the herd, you've got to leave the herd. You've got to go outside the herd and inspire others to want to follow your example by your behavior and your results. So emotional labor is really the work of moving through the anxiety, both biological and sociological, that occurs when we leave our comfort zone. So what that really says is you've got to have a desired result. You've got to have an objective that you're connected to emotionally that's more important to you than your fear of leaving your comfort zone. That creates the motivation to do the emotional labor that change requires, that the development of our emotional intelligence requires.
Yeah, because it's just crazy. I'm just like, the thing that's popping in my head is I remember, in the Marine Corps and then outside of it, right? Where we were trained to be so conscientious, where we're so focused and we're so thorough in us accomplishing the mission objectives of the military, right? And just thinking back when getting out, to your point, like we're kind of the lost sheep that's outperforming our non-military counterparts, out in the marketplace. And, we're not able to figure out how to slow down and use those feeling words, but also slow down enough to be like, okay, what's going on inside of me, right? And process that, right? To be able to effectively communicate with people that do not have that intense discipline, right?
I think that we're used to having other people lead us, have other people set the bar, have other people set the objective. And we're looking for that out in the non-military environment, and it's not there. We're looking for leadership. And what we need to realize is that we're the leaders. We're the people we're looking for to lead us. So the leadership has to come from inside of us. See, leadership isn't a position, it's a choice. And it's a choice that we all need to make. So we need to be looking internally for the leader we want to have. We want to be inspired by. We need to be inspired by our leadership. And then we need to inspire others to follow our example through our behavior and results.
Yeah.
So we already have the tools, and those tools are in high demand in society. And that demand is only going to get greater. I think that the emotional intelligence industry is going to become a multi-trillion-dollar a year industry because it's a fundamental part of our development that's missing in society. Now, folks in the military have had the good fortune of having to do a hell of a lot of emotional labor in their roles.
Yeah.
And as difficult as that was, it's really given them a lot of tools to use outside of the military.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, to your point, like, why do you think emotional intelligence is just starting to catch mainstream? Do you think it's because of, other older generations from Great Depression that, hey, don't tap into your purpose,
I think that we're at a tipping point as a species.
Okay.
It's because of the tsunami of change we're facing and the fact that we really suck at change. We're really not very good at change, never have been. We need to be developing our emotional intelligence to feel the anxiety, the fear that change creates in us, and be able to develop the ability, the emotional intelligence to feel that fear and move through it, rather than allowing ourselves to be controlled by it. I think we're at a tipping point as a species on the planet. Emotional intelligence isn't a solution to the challenges we face. It is the only solution to the challenges we face. So military veterans actually have a leg up on the rest of society because of the training that they've had in developing their emotional intelligence. And they probably don't even, most people probably don't even realize it. But I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a long time, and I work with people all over the world, and hardly anybody is willing to do the emotional labor that the development of their emotional intelligence requires.
Yeah.
So the military has forced the folks in the military to do a lot of emotional labor because they recognize the need for people to be able to feel fear and move through it to achieve objectives rather than be controlled by that fear. Most people outside of the military are being controlled by their fear. And they haven't had the emotional labor training that folks in the military have.
We just kind of suck it down. We get to a point where we don't actually, this is only my subjective opinion, Ambitious Vet. So for you, definitely think for yourself on this one. But for me, I mean, my experience was in the Marine Corps was that we just suppressed our emotions. It wasn't about that. It was about the mission and the men and women to left and right side of us. So I don't remember ever really processing my emotions. So I think what you're saying, Phil, correct me if I'm wrong, that, emotional intelligence on a Barney style level, which military, we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. So emotional intelligence is just processing your emotions. How would you define it?
It's learning to move through fear.
Okay.
It's learning to move through the fear that change and anxiety, change and innovation creates in all of us. All of us. It's a biological cornerstone of our evolution to be afraid of change, to be wary of change. And that's where military folks have a leg up because of the training they've been forced to endure. They've been forced to learn how to deal with fear. And the rest of us haven't. And by the way, my being born with dyslexia, because my brain doesn't work the way most people's brains work, it forced me to have to do a lot of emotional labor. Lots of time the back of my shirt would be soaked with sweat when I was in school. And back in those days, there was no such thing as dyslexia or ADD or ADHD. You were just labeled a slow learner. So I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed either. But I can tell you that if I hadn't been born with dyslexia, there's no way I would have been willing to do the emotional labor that I did that helped me to develop my emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Same way in the military. If you hadn't had somebody barking at you or a situation or some type of leadership showing you the way, you wouldn't have been willing to do the emotional labor that has given you the insights into yourself and other people that most other people don't have. It's like going to the dentist. Nobody would ever go to a dentist unless they were either in pain or trying to avoid pain. Nobody would do emotional labor unless they absolutely had to. And the thing is that whether we recognize it or not, with this accelerating rate of global change, we have to. So we really need folks that have been doing this kind of emotional labor to stand up and stand out and point the way, lead the way for the rest of us, because we all need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all do. We all do. And Ambitious Vet, it's no surprise that inside the civilian sector, right, you've got to be proactive with your emotional labor, right? Because out there inside of the new marketplace that you're entering into or your battlefield, the HR professionals for the organizations you're looking to advance into, or fill in the blank with the ideal career path that you are looking to achieve, 60% of them, and this is a Corny Ferry article that I'll put inside the show notes, Ambitious Vet, 60% of them do not have any onboarding or transitional integration program in place for you to kind of evolve into that culture and learn how to communicate within it, right? It's your job to do the emotional labor to be able to get in there and figure out how to advance in that career and not become a statistic that says that you will leave that first post-military career or second, third career within 24 months, right? We're talking about how do you actually get into mid-level manager positions, executive roles, or if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, how do you get out there and build teams and find team members and scale your company, right? That's really what we're talking about here and why it's important to do the emotional labor so you can get out there and create opportunity post-military.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
As often as possible, try to start your own business. Try to start your own business with some type of product or service where you have the freedom to follow your own values, to follow your own leadership. I think that trying to integrate into a corporate environment would really slow you down, would really be counterproductive to what you already know, because the environment, the corporate environment, lacks emotional intelligence. So they haven't had the level of training, they haven't done the level of emotional labor that you have already. So why try to go into that environment? Create a new environment. Create relationships with people that value emotional intelligence, that have had similar training, and find a product or service that solves a problem in the marketplace. And then begin to surround yourself with partners, customers that have similar experience, that have similar values. And I think you would find that's the fastest way to success. But if you find yourself in a corporate environment, don't try to follow the old pattern. Look for opportunities to lead. Look for opportunities to use the emotional intelligence you have from the emotional labor you've been doing to change the paradigm within the organization. Don't go away from what you know to something that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because what you've been trained to do works.
Yeah, and that's easier said than done, coming from a veteran community, right? Because, I can't tell you how many times I think this is 170 episodes of the Ambitious Vet Show right now. And a lot of the ambitious vets and even patriots like yourself that come in on the show that perceive vets in the marketplace, a lot of us, we just want to get the mission done. We don't need to check out. We just want the mission done. But also when we are so focused on the end result, it can, to your point, it can really shift the paradigm of a organization's culture or whatever you are operating inside of, whatever environment. And one thing that I'd love to hear your wisdom and your 20 years of expertise within this sector of emotional intelligence is when you are feeling weird or a cultural misfit, which is a key term within the veteran community, right? How do we slow down enough or do the emotional labor to figure out how to correlate? Or to your point, how do we feel that fear and anxiety and be able to interact with people with our guard down? Because that's not easy for veterans either.
I'll explain one of the habits that I teach in the MBL, the Master of Business Leadership program, and that's that I call it authentic listening. How somebody feels about you, whether they like you or whether they don't, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with what's going on inside of them. And if how you're feeling about yourself is based on how somebody else feels about you, You're giving away your power to them to determine how you should feel about yourself. That doesn't make sense. Whether you like me or whether you don't is up to you. But whether you like me or whether you don't, it's not going to determine how I feel about me, right? If how I feel about me is based on how you feel about me, who's running my life, me or you?
The other person's
Right.
running.
So
Yeah.
I'm unconsciously giving you permission to run my life. I'm giving away my energy to you to determine how I should run my life. That's a huge mistake. So you have to get connected with your own true north. Whether you like me, if you like me, that's great. If you don't like me, that's unfortunate. But whether you like me or whether you don't, I like me. And that's what matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're hitting a nail in the coffin. I think even when we were talking, I think, a few weeks ago in the pre-interview with myself, I'm always feeling like I'm letting people down. I think it's just my service and stuff. And I think veterans, for the most part, fall into that coffin per se, and don't know how to do the emotional labor to get out of it. So that's really awesome work. Ambitious Vet, and I definitely encourage you to, go and consume some of Phil Johnson's content. He has a great blog that he sent me ahead of time as well that I'll put in the show notes below around the difference between IQ and EQ. There's a distinct difference, and how EQ, people that invest into their EQ or do their emotional labor, on an average make around $30,000 more than the people that are just focusing on building their IQ, right? So making sure that you see the ROI in developing your emotional labor within the marketplace as well, and not reacting to other people's thoughts, opinions, and stuff of that matter, right? Because that only stops us.
Chris, could I read you a brief kind of story that illustrates responsibility, being responsible to versus for others in emotional labor?
Let's do it.
I call it the butterfly story.
Okay.
One day, a small opening appeared in a cocoon. A man sat watching the young butterfly for several hours as it struggled to force its body through the little hole. It appeared as if it has gotten as far as it could go no further. So the man decided to help it. He took a pair of scissors and opened the cocoon. The butterfly was then able to emerge with little effort, but it had a withered body and shriveled wings. The man expected the wings to open and expand, allowing the butterfly to fly away. But the butterfly spent the rest of its life crawling around with a withered body and shriveled wings, never able to fly. What the man in his kindness did not understand was that the restricting effort of the cocoon and the struggle required for the butterfly to emerge through the tiny opening were nature's way of forcing fluid from the body of the butterfly into its wings so that it would be ready for flight once it achieved its freedom. Sometimes struggles are exactly what we need in our life. If we were allowed to go through life without any obstacles, it would cripple us. Our struggles and the emotional labor they require are essential for the development of our emotional intelligence, leadership, and awakened consciousness. So folks in the military have had to struggle purposely to do the emotional labor to develop their emotional intelligence, their inspirational leadership, and a higher level of consciousness about what's going on in them and around them. They have a huge advantage over the rest of the population. So rather than trying to follow the herd, rather than trying to follow the rest of the population, they should be trying to lead the population in a better direction.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to your point, it's just being able to do it with your guard down as well and being open, right? Because the flip side of things, Ambitious Vet, we can also be too dominant and come from a positional way of leadership. So making sure that we are doing it openly and allowing other people to kind of show up around us as well and contribute to us And when we're in that fear of uncertainty or anxiety, stuff like that, it's really being able to do that work as well. Phil, is there anything else you would add to that before we kind of transition to the last segment of the show?
No.
Perfect. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. And if you could send that to me, I selfishly would love to have it and read it probably every single day at this point, as I could develop that kind of mindset at 33 years old. So I want to go ahead and kind of just transition into the last parting wisdom part of the show, where you're going to give the ambitious vet your last bit of golden grenades. There's an ambitious vet that's out of the uniform, been out for a few years now, that has realized that immediate transitional tools like resume writing, interview prep, and job fairs expire, right? Kind of get them to a certain point, but then wind up not getting them to where they really want to be post-military. What would be some last bit of advice or golden grenades that you could give to this ambitious vet listening to this that could blow them to new heights in their life?
The same advice that I give to everybody when I first start working with them. Develop an emotional connection with the vision of your desired result, with your objective. Develop an emotional connection to your objective that's stronger than your fear, because that is what's going to drive you. That's what's going to move you out of your comfort zone in the direction of the achievement of that objective. So it always has to begin. See, the emotional connection you have with the desired result is the fuel for the journey. Without that fuel, you're not going anywhere. You're not going to be willing to do the emotional labor that change and innovation requires of us. So the first step is always connect with your why. Connect with the why you want to achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, and how that's going to be good for you and the people around you. And then begin to take action. Then begin to move in that direction. And recognize that you're going to fall on your face a lot. But that's not a judgment. It's just data. It's just information. Get up, keep going. And when you fall again, get up, keep going. That's the journey. When you fall down, don't stay down. But it all begins with a strong emotional connection to what it is you're trying to achieve.
It's amazing. You know what I hear in that is, in the military ambitious vet, we had this emotional objective of getting, for Marines, our Eagle Globe and Anchor at the end of our 12-week boot camp. We had a lot of fear along the way. You know what I mean? A lot of physical, biological fear, swim qual, stuff like that. But we had a mission that led us that way. So making sure that you are staying connected to the emotion that's your driving force. And Phil, where can an ambitious vet that's listening to this go to connect with you and learn more about this MBL leadership program that you've been doing for years?
The best way is to look for me on LinkedIn, just Phil Johnson. And then you can, there's a calendar link on my profile, and I'd be happy to, you can set up a time, and we can just meet like this via Zoom.
Perfect. Ambitious vet. Again, I met Phil through LinkedIn and had a conversation with him. And then by the middle part of the meeting, he was just like, literally called me out. And I didn't even think I was showing all my cards, but he was just like, you have it that something's wrong with you, don't you? And I shared that with my wife afterwards, Phil, and she was just like, yeah, I never noticed that, but you really do justify and defend yourself a lot, and yada, 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 right? So it was just like, boom, it was right there. So I got a breakthrough in the immediate conversation with Phil Johnson. I don't know what you're going to get, but I encourage you to give him the due credit of doing this for over 20 plus years, connecting with him and seeing how he can help you do the emotional labor so you can reach your full potential post-military. Phil, thanks for joining the show. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show.
The Ambitious Vet is available on all popular podcast platforms. Go to vettrainingcoaching.com to subscribe, rate, and share with fellow vets.
Again, today's show is going to be brought to you by Audible for as little as $6 a month after a 30-day free trial, which you're going to get on us. You're going to be able to get 1 credit, 2 credits if you're a Prime member on some of the top premium titles that would cost you on an average of 15 to 20 bucks for a hard copy at a Barnes & Noble. Like topics like this, though, Sales EQ, which is by Jed Blunt, which is a book that I've been reading on repeat for the past 12 months just to learn how to build better just influential and persuasion skills and interpersonal skills. The market continues to tell you that you're not good at, Ambitious Vet. Not only that, but emotional agility. Being able to adapt your emotions with change and endure it, endure fear and anxiety, just like Phil Johnson said inside the show. These are just a few titles from thousands of them inside of their online library. And also inside that 30-day free trial, Ambitious Vet, you're going to be able to get access to all their Audible Plus catalog of podcasts, audiobooks, guided wellness, and Audible originals. Yes, the Ambitious Vet podcast is in there. I just had to do a backflip and show them what Marines do with crayons, but I got in there. But also what's really cool is they're going to give you another deal for $6 a month for 3 months after that. And then if you're still seeing the value in it, which everyone usually does, it's going to be $15 a month after that ongoingly. If I could freaking talk. But Ambitious Vet, this is a great deal. I hope that you take advantage of it. Get that 30-day free trial on us. Get one book that you've been wanting to listen to over the past year that you didn't have time to go and buy it at a Barnes & Noble or read it at home. At least take advantage of the 30-day free trial on us. And then, cancel it once they give you that reminder. But our commitment here is that you're consistently growing in every area of your life, staying unstuck and showing them what ambitious vets can do in their local communities. Again, that link to start that free 30-day trial is going to be www.audibletrial.com AV podcast. Again, that's www.audibletrial.com /A as in Alpha, V as in Victor podcast.